Over the last 2 days, we've heard a lot about cutting-edge technology and innovation. But let's be real, without people, none of this matters. A lot of the conversations over the last day have been about the greatest challenge in agritech and agriculture, and the fact that it isn't just about the technology. It's about attracting, retaining, and supporting the right people to make that technology work.
And the hard truth, we have a workforce crisis. Gaps in skills, shortages in labour, and an industry that isn't doing enough to invest in the humans behind the innovation. So today we're putting people at the centre of the conversation. The real stories of what's working, what's not working, and what needs to change right now.
We've invited a group of industry leaders up on stage today to deliver something a little bit different. They'll each take to the stage for 4 minutes. No fluff, no filler. Just big truths, bold ideas, and a daring challenge for us all. And to take the conversation forward, we've assembled a panel. Their job will be to respond to each presentation with their perspectives about what the industry should do next.
We have 3 incredible panellists who are each going to bring a unique lens onto this conversation. Linda Brown, as founding CEO and president of Torrens University, what's your main interface with the issue of skills and workforce in agriculture?
Well, I've had a very entrepreneurial career in education, building systems across the world, not just in Australia, working with the Indonesian government just now around their education system, Chinese government, and was part of Laureate that had 1 million students across the world, 56 universities, 6 ag colleges, 14 vet colleges. Built a new university in Australia, built Moreton South Institute of TAFE in Queensland, so probably put 100,000 students through education a year, and I've never matched that with agriculture in a positive way. More importantly, I'm a mother of a daughter who has gone through ag school, got a master's in ag, and is now working in a national role in Australia in agriculture. And I can't believe I've not used my skills to join the dots. So the common ground that we're talking about is critical today in today's discussion.
Yeah. Okay. So we have an experienced, expert, innovative educator.
Yeah.
Stephen O'Brien, as CEO of Morton Co, a major Australian agribusiness, I'm tipping this issue is pretty front and centre to your world.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tim. So Morton Co is a large agricultural business, very diverse. Primarily we are feedlotters with 3 feedlots currently. Our largest feedlot being at Grassdale, where we have today about 77,000 head of cattle. From that feedlot, we produce about 100,000 tonnes of manure every year, and we're converting that into a new granule, a unique product, which is a soil enhancement product that we're not only selling domestically but also overseas. Also on our Grassdale site, we've got a cottonseed crushing facility where we take cottonseed and we crush it down, we produce oil, and it's crude oil at this stage. We will further enhance it into human consumption oil, and we also have meal, which is a stock feed product. Further to that, we have a meat business, a branded meat business, the Phoenix, the Master Selection, which we sell both domestically and overseas. We have farms which are associated to the feedlots, which is another department. We also have a transport company, which is, we have 43 prime movers that cart our cattle from our feedlots to the abattoirs, but also cart a lot of cattle from the producer to our feedlots. We've also got some new innovative products that are coming on the market now. A Predictor Plus, which assists the producers in establishing a better performance-based, less emissions and more money available in profit. So there's a lot we're doing. So, we might be playing in the agricultural industry, but we are a people company. We cannot survive without great people within our business. So everything we do, from the moment Charlie Mort established the business 28 years ago, it was about bringing good people around him to take the business further. Nothing has changed. So I'm delighted to be here today to talk about our greatest asset at Morton Co, and that's people, and the need for us to grow the depth of our people.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stephen. And Mike Black, as co-founder of agtech startup Rainstick, 2 sentences, if you can. What's your primary interface with this issue?
Coming at a new challenge, which is to commercialize the understanding that biology is electric and we can use that in agricultural context. It's a really deep science crossed with multidisciplinary components. So not only are you understanding what's happening scientifically, but you're also interfacing with farmers that understand things on the ground with deep knowledge. It's been built up over many, many years, building a team of people that don't normally interact with each other. Mm-hmm. When does a physicist, it's almost a setup for a joke, a physicist, a biologist, and an engineer walks into a startup? Yeah. So it's about bringing all those people together, bringing a sense of common direction, and understanding what we can learn from each other despite all of our different modalities.
Yep. Okay, great. So this is our panel. We're going to listen to each presentation in turn, and they will join us. We'll respond with some insights and critique. Should be a good session. Saron, shall we dive in?
Let's dive in. So, as we all know, agriculture isn't just farming. It's the science, technology, and innovation. Yet most metropolitan students don't actually see themselves in the industry. Our first speaker is changing that. Scott Graham is the head of agriculture at Barker College. He has built Australia's largest Year 12 agriculture cohort, proving that the future of agriculture starts in our cities. How do we rewrite the narrative and attract the next generation of agriculture workers? Let's hear from the man leading the charge, Scott Graham.
Good morning. 90% of Australians live in urban areas, but agriculture, that's something most urban students never consider. For many, agriculture is just farming, cows, tractors and paddocks, a blood subject for kids not academically driven, something not for them. Behind me is Barker College on Sydney's North Shore, and we have a story you might not expect. We are home to the largest Year 12 agriculture cohort in Australia. This year, 100 students are studying agriculture for their HSC. Because when urban students see agriculture differently, they see their future in it. Here's the problem. Agriculture has an image crisis, and it's costing us the next generation of leaders. For metropolitan students, agriculture is irrelevant, outdated, seemingly disconnected, and far removed from their lives. But why? Firstly, agriculture equals farming. The public narrative is narrow and outdated, focusing only on the jobs in rural and regional Australia. Around 30% of jobs are on farm, while 40% are off farm in regional areas, and 20 to 30% are based in cities, often in high-tech, agribusiness or supply chain roles. However, metropolitan Australians, who make up the majority of the population, don't see themselves as part of this workforce. The current workforce is also stretched thin, with 6 jobs available for every agriculture-related graduate. Secondly, there's limited role models. Metro students don't see themselves in agriculture because they don't see people like themselves in the sector. As the saying goes, you can't be what you can't see. All this leads to a missed opportunity. Australian agricultural industries need to double food production, adapt to climate change, and embrace tech innovation. Yet we're failing to attract the diverse, skilled workforce required to meet these challenges. Agricultural enrolments in Year 12 nationally and at universities are at near all-time lows per capita. The reality is stark. There are 6 jobs for every agriculture-related degree graduate, but students don't know that these jobs exist, or that many of them are based in cities. But what if we disrupted the narrative? What if we stopped framing agriculture as just farming and created something new? The metropolitan agriculturalist. At Barker College, we've done just that. In 2008, only 50 students studied agriculture. Mostly boarders, many seeing it as nothing more than a blood subject. Today, over 400 students are enrolled from years 9 to 12, with 80 to 90, and this year 100 graduating year 12 each year, making up around 6% of the New South Wales HSC agriculture cohort from just one school. So what does the metropolitan agriculturalist look like at Barker? Firstly, reframing agriculture. We stopped presenting agriculture as the past and started showing it as the future. Agriculture became a science like biology or chemistry with rigorous academic outcomes and expectations. Secondly, connecting to metropolitan students. We shifted the focus to urban relevance, teaching, amongst other things, coffee, production, viticulture, and high-tech enterprises, and showing, importantly, career pathways in agribusiness, science, technology, and sustainability, as well as city-based roles. Thirdly, creating role models. Students saw peers succeeding in their agriculture-related careers, people like them who are shaping the future of food, tech, and sustainability. The result? Disruption works. By changing the narrative and creating pathways for metropolitan students, we've transformed, and the sector can transform, one school, one student, and one community at a time. But are we brave enough to rewrite agriculture's narrative and create space for the metropolitan agriculturalist? Are we ready to stop framing agriculture as just farming and start showing it as the cutting, high-impact sector that it is? Will we disrupt, innovate, and lead, or let outdated stereotypes hold us back? Thank you.
Fantastic. What an inspiring story. Linda, Scott's depicted a picture of bringing a whole cohort of people that wouldn't normally be interested in agriculture into that field at secondary college level. What do we need to do at tertiary level to do the same?
Yeah, well done. Phenomenal what's happening. And I think even taking the lessons from what you're doing to other schools and other networks across Australia is going to be critical. I'm sure your principal doesn't think that because it's obviously a competitive advantage you've got in your school. But for me, I think one of the big things is there's perceived to be a very narrow path for agriculture, that you've got to go to agricultural college, or you've got to have a family history and to participate in that area. One of the things that I'm really curious about is how we actually make it part of not just specific subjects in the curriculum, but how we actually set up projects with local schools for maybe the more techie kids or kids who don't even have a perception about agriculture at all. So I think in tertiary, I feel really responsible now after being at this conference for 2 days that I've developed systems in universities and built brand new universities with all these potential students that want to save the world. They want to be linked to the sustainability goals. We're a B Corp. And I haven't given them the opportunity to work with companies to do ag projects or to actually look at that field of study more than just subjects. So I think we've got to see it as an output and show people how they can really impact society and impact the economy through different skills and widen the scope rather than make it this specific pathway into ag college and up through that, I think.
Yep, okay. And Mike, you must have worked with a variety of people who are coming with other skills into an ag-adjacent sector. How do they respond when you say it's an ag-focused business, and how do you go with attracting them across to your business?
Yeah, so there's a lot of competition vying for that same talent. Like you can go to Silicon Valley and go and work in a brain-computer interface thing and control giant walking robots. If you're a tech person. Like there's a whole bunch of really exciting things. And if you say, like your points were really, really solid about that, hey, yeah, you get to go and put a blue ribbon on a cow, that's not quite as exciting for a tech person. But to be able to say, actually, this is food science, this is high value compounds, this is like biology, it's physics, it's all of these other things that you're actually quite excited to study and learn about, but then applied in a practical sense that's actually going to feed the nation, which has come as a reminder when we went through food shortages during COVID, and I'm in far north Queensland, so we've got no food in our shelves at the moment because of the floods. You become very acutely aware that all of those things are really core to our existence and how we live on this planet.
Yep. And Stephen, not everyone we need in agriculture needs to be a microbiologist or an agtech specialist. Do you see any of the kids flowing through from Barker's College or people flowing through from urban environments into your business these days?
Yeah, we've just recently, we had 3 graduates from Victoria who joined us about 3 years ago, really not understanding what they're walking into. Yep. They're still with us today, and they've got supervisory leadership roles within the business. They're added to that graduate role, that role within the business. So we see people who are willing to take the courageous step in getting out of their comfort zone of the city into rural Australia. I think, and I do congratulate Barker College for the initiative. We're lucky in the Downs that we've got some good boarding schools who are also very much educating in the agri world. But I think what really needs to happen, and happen quickly, is the collaboration with the ag world. We can be educating in the theory of agriculture, but they've got to see it, they've got to smell it, they've got to touch it. Not just once or twice, but it needs to be a big part of their education.
Yep, okay.
Both at school and also university.
Yep, great. And Scott, throw back to you there, on the base of that, do you work to give them that smell, that taste, that touch of agriculture?
Absolutely, yeah. The students love the practical aspect. Often it's the reason they choose it. I think agriculture has all the aspects. For me, I grew up in Sydney, I live in Sydney. The thing that's kept me in agriculture is the big challenges that agriculture faces, and I think that really attracts students, and it really attracts students. Agriculture has those things that make it really attractive for metropolitan students, especially even the high-end academic students who want to do something to make a difference. And so I think we need to promote that and make it really clear pathway for those students.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Scott. Saron, what a cracking start to the session. Thank you, Scott.
What an incredible start to the session. Thank you, Scott. Melanie Leather is a powerhouse in Australian agriculture. Co-founder of the Leather Cattle Company, industry leader and a fierce advocate for sustainability and innovation. From boardrooms to the paddock, she's driven real change, proving that leadership isn't just about resisting challenges, it's about embracing them. Today, Melanie challenges us to rethink how we approach change. Are we leaders or bystanders? Are we resisting or are we ready to lead? Let's find out. Please welcome to Evoke Ag, Melanie Leather.
Thank you. I consider myself lucky. I have my dream job as a beef cattle producer in central Queensland, working alongside my family in a multi-generational, family-owned operation. And that's not unique. Over 90% of Australian beef cattle operations are family-run. But here's the reality check. Australia's red meat and livestock sector employs over 200,000 people and another 200,000 in supporting industries. Only 1/3 of these people are female. Just 2% are Indigenous Australians, and 4 in 10 are aged over 55 years old. We often blame the workforce crisis or external forces, the resources boom, climate change, unpredictable markets, and the government. But let's be honest. The problem isn't just external, it's internal. Agriculture still carries an outdated narrative. We're seen as a fallback career rather than a future-focused industry. We're viewed as isolated, physically demanding, and lacking diversity. Far too often we are defensive. We are so busy pushing back against climate, animal welfare, sustainability commentary that we forget to listen and evolve. We still often describe ourselves in paradigms of Australian agriculture's past, when in fact we are running global businesses and working with global supply chains. And then there's livability. We can't talk about attracting people to regional Australia without addressing poor connectivity, education, healthcare, childcare, and aged care. Here's the hard truth. It's not just resources or policies, it's our mindset. How we think about change shapes how we respond to it. If we don't change how we think, we won't just fall behind, we'll fail to meet the demands of a changing world. It's time to stop resisting and start leading. The solution is as clear as it is challenging. We must adopt a growth mindset and embrace our role of solutionists. Far too often we view problems in binary terms. It's us versus them. The government doesn't get us. Consumers don't get us. The banks don't get us. But a solutionist doesn't see the world in binary terms. A solutionist sees the barriers, acknowledges the challenges, and finds a way through them. Becoming a solutionist means rethinking education and training. We need pathways that prepare the next generation with skills in agtech, supply chains, environmental science, finance, and data analytics. Agriculture needs to be a top choice for young people, not the career of last resort. We need to transform leadership. Young people, women, and Indigenous Australians must see leaders who in fact look like them. We must foster leadership that is creative, future-focused, and adaptable. We must build livable, thriving communities with better education, healthcare, childcare, and partner opportunities. All must be part of the equation. We must attract families, not just workers. And it starts locally. Take my family's experience when faced with deforestation requirements. We didn't resist. We worked with our supply chain, we leveraged verifiable tech, and found solutions that met global standards. That's what being a solutionist means. It means being creative, acting strategically, and turning challenges into opportunities. Because the truth is clear. The world is not going to wait for us to catch up. If we don't act now, we risk losing more than relevance. We risk losing the very identity of Australian agriculture.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Stephen, Melanie's thrown us the challenge of adopting a solutionist mindset to managing people in agriculture. So you employ about 300 people, chance to influence your leaders and the staff in turn. How do you go about trying to be creative, solutionist, and move from a sort of backward-looking ag mindset to a forward-looking mindset?
I think it's part of our culture. I think it's very much part of, Charlie Maud, our founder and our chairman's culture is not to sit still, be proactive, see what's coming at you and be in front of it, be a leader, be humble in what we're doing, but don't sit back and wait. If the government want to support you, it's a bonus. If the banks want to give you some relief, it's a bonus. If you get a good contract with one of the retailers, it's a bonus. But do what you've got to do, and where you can, support upstream and downstream in the endeavours to get where you need to get.
Yep. And Melanie's highlighting a producer landscape in beef where I think 30% were female only still,
Yep.
the workforce. She's sending her cattle off, I believe, to Morton Co. What is the diversity she would see in your business?
We're not as high as what we are, but we have women at every level in every department. We want to get more, and we attract more where we can. These three graduates are all females. But it's interesting, out of the new enrolments in agriculture, 56% of them are women joining the graduate universities in agriculture. But we have a workforce of 31% are female. So there's a leakage there. We have a lot of people who see agriculture, a lot of women who see agriculture as a future, but somewhere along the line they get lost, and they don't join us in agriculture. We've got to look at that. We've got to find the reason for that.
Mike, Melanie's challenged us to be solutionists, creative. How important is leadership style in a business like yours?
Yeah, so from a startup's perspective, it's often very founder-led, and so I think our culture of leadership is to inspire, like, hey, would you like to build a lightning machine to treat seeds? You know, like that's a pretty cool opener.
Yeah.
And then to empower it with encouragement and bring those people in. Like, we have a very diverse team, even though we're a small team. We have 6 different countries. We've got First Nations, we've got women, we've got people on the spectrum. Like, there's all sorts of stuff that happens with very, very different ways that people like to work. But they all come together for that common piece. I actually also wanted to throw one, just an additional one. I've seen a hell of a lot of pitches in ag. We were at a pitch event last night as well. And each time, I think there's a responsibility from the startups that are pitching. They still keep pitching the same farmer in the Ringers Western shirt in their pitch deck. So the narrative is still broken, even with the new things that are coming out now. They're being pitched to not what necessarily the future of farmers are as well.
Yeah, that's a good pickup. Yeah. Linda, how about you? So out of universities like yours, we're seeing 56% female graduates. What do you suspect's behind the attrition that leads to industries where 30% are only female on the ground?
Yeah, I think I want to come back to what you said. One comment that you talked about, we need to attract families. Do you know, for me, it's a lifestyle choice. And I always look for cups being half empty and where we can have a solution that nobody else is targeting. I think one of the things that we've missed in this industry at this point in time is the exodus that happened from the city during COVID, and that people left, career changers left the city because they couldn't afford it, they didn't want to live there, and they had the opportunity to work somewhere else and phone in to the big corps or whatever. These people don't want to go back to the city. So there's all these people in the fringes of rural communities who have tasted a bit of that lifestyle and love it. How do we then take them from there and pull them further rural into agriculture rather than them fight because they don't want to return to the city? So I think career changers and second careers and that muddy middle of careers is something that agriculture should really target, because they have the experience, the resilience, and want the lifestyle, as you say, in different communities for their family. So I think everybody's going after the young graduate. I think everybody's going after the women in science and STEM. So how could we be very specific and target a very specific group of the population to pull them out into rural industries? Because nobody else is doing that at this point in time.
As the final word, Melanie, is that an opportunity, or is moving to the fringe of urban areas still really at the fringe of cattle country?
Oh, look, I think this is where this livability piece really becomes important, and we really, we need to be able to have facilities in rural areas, like I talked about, education, health, make these areas attractive to people to want to be there. It's difficult for, if a partner comes and they're wanting to bring their partner with them and they have no technology that's reliable, and that partner might be doing a job that's remote. Well, they're not going to stay there because, that person's, they're not going to be able to do their job. So I guess I think rural areas, livability is a really big problem that needs to be addressed, and it's a societal problem.
Yes.
It's not just agriculture's problem. It is a whole societal problem.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie.
Thanks.
So Ron, back to you.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you, Melanie. Some poignant reflections there. So, change in agriculture is inevitable. But the real question is, who is driving it? Stu Adam is the CEO and co-founder of Agronomy, an agtech innovator revolutionising decision-making with Ag Twin, Australia's first digital twin for agriculture. Partnering with Microsoft and the CSIRO, Stu's mission is clear: to empower landholders with transparency, trust, and control. Today, he's here to challenge us. Are we truly putting farmers in the driver's seat of innovation? Let's welcome Stu Adam to the stage.
Who is really holding the reins of Aussie ag? Are landholders being empowered to drive change, or are they being saddled with responsibilities without the agency to shape their own future? Instead of programs and tools that genuinely empower, farmers of all kinds encounter black box systems that demand blind trust, a regulatory framework that moves at a glacial pace, and little control over their own story. Even the most well-resourced and sophisticated landowners grapple with this reality. Balancing tradition and transformation isn't just challenging, it's critical, and right now, we're getting it wrong. This lack of agency comes at a cost we call the cost of confusion. Opportunities are missed, projects stall, progress slows. The consequences of this imbalance are stark. This system stifles innovation and demoralises the very people we rely on to shape the future of agriculture. To change the game, we need to shift the focus to people. Technology should empower, not dictate. It should clarify, not complicate. With technologies like Agronomy's Ag Twin, farmers are reclaiming control, using clear, actionable and marketable insights, making smarter, more confident decisions about their land and their business. For those who aren't familiar, at Agronomy, we create a super high-resolution digital twin of a farm, a replica of the real thing. The solution is Ag Twin. And when you can see your farm in this way, you can get after it like never before. So let me share an example of what an empowered landowner looks like. An early client didn't engage Agronomy to manage erosion, open up carbon markets, improve biodiversity, or secure regulatory approvals. They simply wanted to move some fences. But with the power of Ag Twin, they quickly realised opportunities they never had on their radar. Seeing their land through Ag Twin changed everything for these guys. They could now see how water moved across their landscape, allowing them to design and move dirt that rehydrated degraded areas, reduced erosion, and extended their grazing potential, as you can see on screen. With this same data, and in partnership with our friends at Regenco, they could now see the viability of a carbon project, something they had previously dismissed as magic beans. It's now happening, and it's happening with a biodiversity co-benefit thanks to the Queensland Government. When landholders have access to the right insights, they don't just solve the problems they know about, they unlock opportunities they never thought possible. This is the power of insight-driven decision-making. This is what real empowerment looks like, natural capital and production working hand in hand. The real power of Ag Twin is in what it enables: transparency, trust, and importantly, speed. With Ag Twin, users, in this case Nick and Penny Gay from New South Wales, are able to communicate in no uncertain terms with contractors, like more of our friends at the Malone Institute, investors, regulators and neighbours, armed with all the farm-specific detail you could imagine and the tangible outcomes from their efforts. This is the shift we need: technology that empowers landholders to tell their story, demonstrate their impact and make more informed decisions. It's about putting them back in control, not just of their land, but the narrative that goes with it. We all know Australian agriculture is a thoroughbred, with enormous potential as we embark on this next era. But the question is, who's holding the reins? Will we continue to burden landholders, saddling them with all the risk and the responsibility, or will we shift the balance of power, ensuring that those who stand to gain the most, Australian farmers, are truly in control? Papering over the cracks isn't a strategy. We need the right tools in the right hands to make the right decision, so that the future of agriculture isn't just dictated to farmers, but built by them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stu. Stu's raised a really interesting angle here, because so often we just think about technology as an attractive thing, but as he's raised, not necessarily if it's opaque and doesn't give agency to the producer. Mike, in your experience, do you see tech attracting people into this sector, and how do you recognise this issue of the importance of agency through transparency and not just having black boxes on the farm?
Yeah, so several years ago we ran a Maker in Residence program at UNSW, and we took a whole bunch of engineers out onto a farm in a bus. And that was a really cool experience to get them out of the university and in, boots on the ground kind of thing. And one of the things was immediately clear, and it's like, if the farmer's pump breaks at 4 a.m, they need to be able to fix it, right? But if they have to fly someone in from Sydney who works for Big Corp to service it because they're not even allowed to touch inside it, yes. How are you supposed to run your farm? And there's so many risks in the farm. Like, how do we get that to have user serviceable componentry? And another factor to that is you're talking about adding data for those farmers to make decisions from that. But what about those farmers that know a lot about that information themselves, anecdotally, in their left knee? They know that that's how the water goes, How do we get that information back into a system if they can't participate with that system, so that the next generation of farmers that might not look like the guys that were wearing the hats in your last picture can actually learn from the knowledge of those people that have worked the land for generations? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that ability to repair stuff goes back to the comment Mark Allison made on the first morning of farmers fighting for the right to be able to repair tractors without voiding warranties, that same sense of agency. Stephen, what has been some of the new technology you've adopted in your business, and how has the workforce responded to that in a positive or negative sense?
We're forever, as I said, we're forever looking at new ways, better ways of doing things, and that comes from the people on the ground who are telling the guys in the offices, this is what we should be doing. But I think Lee made a really good comment earlier in the storytelling, is that sometimes innovators don't listen. They think they've got the answers, and they've got this new products, and we've all made the mistake where we've got something that you've got to take because it's terrific. But we forgot to engage them at the beginning. Engage them so they're part of the solution. So, I could name 3 or 4 that we're working on now, and that we, another 3 or 4 that have launched the last 3 years. But, where we haven't done well is we didn't engage early enough with both the consumer or the customer, but also those further up the chain, up the line, who can play a big part in getting a solution out there. Yeah. So we have to listen, we've got to collaborate, we've got to bring people, engage people early on in the innovation. Yeah.
And even as they're starting as engineers on buses, I love your concept.
Yeah.
Like start early before they're even into the ag tech world. Linda, what are your reflections on this issue?
I mean, for me, one of the privileges I've got is the chair of judges for Australian Entrepreneur of the Year. I managed to win that a few years ago, and globally, I am on the global judging panel. And I think it's, how do we mix that? I mean, this is a really sexy conference, isn't it? Right? Like, I've listened to these change makers. I'm listening to you. I'm hearing this amazing environment that is so innovative and so out there. It's incredible. But it's like a club. It's in here. We're talking about it in here. How do we talk about it more outside so that people can look in? Mm-hmm. And how can we also, some of the skills that you're talking about around agency and communication and listening skills and project management, and how you actually take something from idealization through to, in an entrepreneurial way, through to a product that's worth it. These are all common skills that should be taught across our whole curriculum and across our whole university infrastructure. But I think, back to your point, the agency of that needs to sit with the people who do it and the people who've got the knowledge. And I think you really brought that to the fore in your presentation, and really in your response around listening to the people who know and building on that is critical in this issue around people.
So time's up, but I want to just drill down that. Whose responsibility is it? Is it everyone's responsibility?
I think everybody has a circle of influence, and everybody has a responsibility. I mean, I know what I'm going to do from this conference. I'm going to take some major actions away. In the next university I design, or the next system I design, I'm going to think about the sustainability goals in agriculture as being impact of the skills that we are creating. So I think we've all got to look at our own journey and our own circle of influence. But I think it's back to your point. It's linking it back to those in the know and who have that experience and not running off with a solution that's unworkable.
Okay. All right. Last words?
Yeah, sure. I mean, reaching sustainable agriculture, nature positive agriculture, whatever the ambition is not going to be like winning the lotto. It's not going to wake up one day and it's all done. This is hundreds of thousands of projects that happen to happen on hundreds of thousands of farms across the world every day, and the ability to get out of farmers' way so it doesn't take them 6 months of process to get in there and do a 2-day job that we know is the right thing to do. So helping farmers tell that story to get them through a system, remove some of the friction, I think is ultimately what farmers would like to see as they transform that farm.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much, Stu Adam. So Ron, I think we're getting a useful to-do list here. Let's keep going.
I think so. So many takeaways from that. Australia is defined by its ocean. Yet paradoxically, we import the majority of the seafood that we consume. Our next speaker is on a mission to change that. As the General Manager of Policy, Projects and Seafood at Seafood Industry Australia, Julie Petty is a fierce advocate for the future of Australian seafood. And I just want to note that Julie is actually stepping in with a last-minute notice, as Veronica Papacosta, who was originally meant to speak, has unfortunately had a family emergency. So we are very appreciative of Julie stepping in with literally no notice. So can we give her a big round of applause for doing that? Today, she is here to challenge us. Are we truly investing in the people and ideas that will secure our food future? Let's find out and welcome Julie Petty to the stage.
Thank you. Imagine this, an island country surrounded by pristine waters that we promote in every single tourism campaign we use, and with abundant seafood, and yet our population predominantly eats imported fish. This isn't a random forecast of the future, it's our current state, and it's our present trajectory. The uncomfortable truth is that without intervention, we are on a pathway to catastrophe. Let's take seafood as an example. We've modelled the next 10 to 20 years, and the forecasting that we've seen is truly frightening. We will be a nation girt by sea that does not consume its own seafood. Our workforce is ageing. Our social licence is under attack. Businesses are struggling under ever-increasing regulation. Our RDCs are resourced via public and levy funds, but innovation is stalling. Why is that? Is it perhaps because the current RDC system prioritises compliance and caution over bold, transformative ideas? This is a whole of agriculture challenge. Things like financial sustainability, workforce gaps and innovation are all deeply interconnected. Without the right people, even the most advanced technology is meaningless. Annually, we invest $880 million in taxpayer funds in research, development and innovation into our RDC system. So why does it feel like our industries are stalling? Where are the bold ideas and the groundbreaking solutions that will transform our future? I'm not here to blame the RDCs, not at all. This is a structural issue, not the fault of any individual or any particular RDC. I know from my own personal experience how hard it can be working in these big machines, trying every day to feel like you've made a difference. But the truth is, the system is designed to prioritise compliance and risk aversion. Meanwhile, workforce shortages and a lack of pathways to commercialising research are stifling growth. The problem is not financial or technical, it is systemic and cultural. We have created a system that is too inward-looking, too slow to act, and too risk-averse. We've designed a structure that stifles bold ideas instead of championing them. So what needs to change? We need really clear pathways to commercialisation. Research without outcomes is wasted. We need to turn these ideas into action, solutions that will strengthen industry viability and deliver real national benefits. We need to back bold investments. It's time to stop playing it safe. We must unapologetically back the biggest ideas, the most promising innovations, even if it means taking risks. And that means increasing our risk profile. Innovation thrives on experimentation, and experimentation naturally comes with the risk of failure. So here is the big dangerous question for us all. Are we ready to do what it takes? Are we brave enough to truly challenge and maybe even dismantle the systems that we have grown comfortable with? Systems that feel safe but might be holding us back. To quote Lee Sales, this story that I'm telling is all about people. People are key. We must invest in workforce development and inspire the brightest minds to want to join our community. When we put people first, we don't just build profitable industries. We build resilient, innovative, and future-focused ones. Rethinking how we invest in our workforce is about securing the survival of entire communities. It's about protecting our national supply chain and preserving our identity as a nation that not only feeds itself, but helps feed the world. If we are not willing to prioritise people over processes and bold outcomes over incremental change, then who will? So, are we ready to act? Will we look back in 20 years and ask, why didn't we? Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you, Julie. Linda, Julie has painted a picture of a systematic and cultural aversion to risk in this industry and perhaps in this country. You obviously, I'm suggesting maybe you saw the same thing when I think 20 years ago you set up the first university that had been set up in this country for a long time, or the first one in 20 years?
10 years ago it was the first one in 20 years.
10 years ago, first one in 20 years. Did you also see the lack of bold innovation in the tertiary education sector? Is it a familiar cultural trait to you in this country?
Yeah, I mean, I came here 16 years ago, Scottish. You'll be trying to work out if I'm Scottish or Irish. And I was really surprised. Like, I'd heard about this kind of education in the bush, so I thought, oh my God, that'll be online and it'll be innovative. And then I came here and went, well, what is this about? Do you know what I mean? So there's lots of things culturally in Australia, tall poppy syndrome, you know, fear of failure. In our culture, we are a very risk-adverse community. You look at Americans, you know, they tend to dine out on how many businesses have failed on their way to success. And we don't have that same culture. Commercialization at universities is the same thing. We're phenomenal inventors. We're just not good at making money from it. So I think there is a cultural issue there that we need to get much better at. And we're very government dependent here. You know, somebody said to me, if you cough, you ask what cough syrup you're going to use from the government. So I found the culture very different here around risk appetite, and I think you're spot on with that. But that's us. We are the culture. The culture isn't done unto us. The culture is what people do when you're not looking. So we just need to change what we're doing when people aren't looking. So I thought your points were very well taken.
Great. So very, very recognised in terms of the issue. It's real. Mike, you can solve it for us. How do we change our culture and become more embracing of risk in a creative, positive sense?
Yeah, taking on the bold ideas that have such a massive moonshot upside to them. Like, not this incremental, I just want to do the same thing but marginally better. I think one of the things that's happened for us is that because we've taken on such a bold challenge in what we do, we've actually had to lean on venture backing, because that's at least aligned with the moonshot kind of way of thinking. And so, like, yeah, that's a huge upside. We will back you. And there's all sorts of conversations that are happening around, is ag tech venture backable, and all sorts of unpacks that side of things. But we've been really fortunate to have fantastic shareholders that share in that narrative and that story that we have of what we believe is the impact that we will have from what we're doing. But then that also needs to flow through to the grants and the universities and all the other partners that we work through to make that happen and to have that risk appetite and that belief. And I think the way that we've been bridging it so far is to have a really strong narrative and to do the diligence of de-risking each step as much as we possibly can, and then owning the part where we say, here's where we got to. Nobody knows what happens after that because nobody's done it before.
Yep.
And that's a good, curious space where everyone can get involved and answer that question collectively.
It seems to me there's a tremendous opportunity to change this culture given the generation now coming through who have such an expectation of their ability to turn entire industries on their head because of what they've seen in their lifetime. Stephen, do you see any change in recent cohorts of people coming through to your business about a change of mindset to think more is possible, questioning things, exploring new opportunities?
Oh, there's no doubt. I just don't think it's the young people coming through either. I think it's the older generation who realise that, in handing down their farms or whatever they own to their kids and grandkids, they've got to do it differently because the past is no longer the future. But I take the point on the compliance that governments, and this isn't for all governments, and I apologise if we have people here, but their term of reference is the next election. They are looking at how they can get voted in again. Our farmers, our processors, our producers are not looking at the next 3 years, they're looking at the next 20 years. And I think that is where there's a real battle going on that, we in this industry are looking 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the track. Our governments and the three levels are looking at the next term of election. So we've got to take the shackles off industry and allow industry to thrive and do what it does and do what it does well.
Yep. Julie, do you feel any better or worse after hearing from our panel?
I feel better after having done the speech.
Yeah.
I think we have the opportunity, this is about people, right? So whether you are in industry or you're industry adjacent, such as in an RDC, you want to see that industry succeed. People are not in those roles for fun. They are in there because they love the industry. They have that passion. So there is such great opportunity for us to collectively work together to try and work out how we relieve the system of some of its current frustrations, how we move forward and really make lasting change and impact.
Yep, great. Thank you very much, Julie. Well done. Challenges are getting bigger. They're being thrown us, Saron. Let's finish off in the home straight.
Oh, yeah, home stretch. That was fantastic. Our final speaker is redefining what it means to grow food in Australia. As the CEO of CalFresh, Richard Gorman has led the company's evolution, scaling across 4 regions, pioneering automation, and building a bioenergy precinct to power an entire town. Yes, you heard that right, an entire town. But for all the innovation, one challenge remains: attracting the right people. Please welcome Richard Gorman to Evoke Ag.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm a third-generation farmer. Both my mum and dad were families that ran sheep in the Riverina, as well as cropping. I enjoyed school. I did well at school, and we moved to Western Queensland and ended up at boarding school here in Brisbane. But I was in a hurry to return back to regional Australia. So I left at grade 10, went to the University of Queensland that offered like a bridging course, and you could get into agricultural science. I was so sure about what I wanted to do, I did that. In between, worked at feedlots, worked at packing sheds, worked in all different parts, and found a passion for vegetables, mostly because I didn't like sheep. Joined CalFresh. It was a company, Barry and his wife Kay, husband and wife, very traditional farming family. Barry was a real entrepreneur and been in quarrying, trucking, and then Their son had a passion for agriculture. He went to the same university as I. He was a bit older. And then, they developed a laser focus and said, we're going to do vegetables. We're going to do it differently. We're going to do it better. Rob had a real analytical mind. He was the son. And then basically, by the time I joined, we were a bit of a team and we just backed ourselves. We were expert multitaskers. We'd load the trucks, check the crops, call the customers, run the irrigators, work with the banks, do anything that had to. And there wasn't a lot we couldn't fix with a spanner and a bit of duct tape. Today, 25 odd years on, I'm one of the owners and the CEO of the company. Like a lot of other agricultural operations, there's a lot of capital involved and, everything looks a lot different. We're vertically integrated. It means we control everything from planting the seed to marketing and selling the product. We've created joint ventures in North Queensland. We farm over 4 different regions. We've partnered with other farming families, in particular the Jurgens. This is Jacob Jurgen up there. That's a automatic seeder that he's developed on the farm, and that actually plants our organic green beans and sweet corn. We've also decided, right, we can diversify our income streams and we're going to create a bioenergy precinct. What that means is we're going to take the waste from our veggie operations, develop some bioenergy crops, which we're really just implementing from what we've seen overseas, and we're going to create energy. And we're going to create enough energy that we can run baseload renewable energy for our scenic rim grid, which is an hour and a half from here. So our entire local town will be able to run off the energy that we create. Fundamentally, we just need to move our industry from being price takers to value creators. That's why we're doing what we do. Now, the people and the skills that we need to do this have changed a lot since the 90s. What you're looking at there, that's part of an automatic optical sorter. We have 2 of those for carrots. We've got them for green beans. We developed our own for sweet corn. There's $13 million worth of investment that we're putting into automation this year. We need mechatronics engineers. They're all the sort of people that we need to run this business. Yet, despite all of this, we still come up against this outdated idea that farming and the career you choose, it's the sort of thing you do if you're not good at school or you don't want to go to university. And that's just not the truth. Too often people see themselves in agriculture because the narrative hasn't kept up with reality. We must show that agriculture is high-tech, high opportunity in the industry that requires the best of the best. That's because that's the truth. The bioenergy that we're creating, it's a renewable energy system. It doesn't involve mining or fossil fuel. It works with agriculture and it benefits the rural communities. The best part is we know how this technology works. It's mature, it's proven, it works in Europe and the UK and America. And I guess the people we need and the people we're working with, they're process engineers, they're civil engineers, they're biological engineers, that team that you talk about, we've found ourselves working with new people. Investment bankers, actual bankers. You meet a whole new range of people when you step into the bold new world of a new industry. Talent doesn't arrive ready-made into agriculture. Like we grow our crops, we've found we have to grow our people as well. That means educating on the run. No matter how many robots and automated systems that you have or AI tools we bring in that gives us the information, you need a lot of smart people to operate them and still run the business. The future of Australian agriculture will be shaped by people who can merge the skill of growing food with the power of technology, be across the numbers and use data to inform their decisions. I'll leave you with this question. How do we showcase an industry where the brightest minds want to be because they see a future where they can contribute to the food, energy and sustainable solutions that the world is demanding? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Richard. Richard's challenged us on the need to change the narrative and to all take responsibility for developing talent. It doesn't just turn up in our industry. Our final discussion as a panel, ask you to reflect, Stephen, on Richard's theme or any closing comments you'd like to make.
I missed that side, Tim. What?
Would you like to respond to Richard's challenge or any closing comments you'd like to make in the next 45 seconds?
45 seconds, I'll be quick. So one thing for Richard, I think it's great. Changing the narrative means we've got to collaborate with the stakeholders, be the banks, be the retailers, be the producers, the processors, everyone along the value chain we've got to collaborate with. The banks obviously have an interest in agriculture. They are supportive of it, so they can assist in getting the good people on board. One thing we've missed out in this whole segment, which I think we've really got to discover maybe in the breakout rooms, is where passion lies in agriculture. We can have all the skills and all the tools in the world, but passion is the thing that has made agriculture what it is today. It's the passion that the farmers, the producers have on a daily basis. Those poor guys up in Tully and elsewhere up north whose crops are destroyed. They get up this morning, they look, they've got nothing, but they dust themselves off and they're out there to grow their business again with their partner by their side working hard. We don't get that. You can't learn that in universities or at schools. You've got to be out there, you've got to be one of them, you've got to see the passion. I've learned it, I'm a city slicker that's been in Toowoomba working in this business for 5 years, and I'm amazed by the strength of the people and the courage and the determination of the agricultural industry that we don't see in other industries. So I think we've got to talk about how we maintain and build passion in the agricultural industry.
Mike, 30 seconds or less, last reflections.
I'll give quick points on that. So you can't have curiosity and ego at the same time. And if you ever find egos creeping in, be more curious. And that's a fantastic way to manage a multidisciplinary team because everybody's just trying to learn a little bit more about what they can do and how they can have that impact. I'd also say that when you're producing something that's got to have a significant impact, risk is what excites the good talent. We keep trying to hide the risk, right? But it's the risk, like the bigger, loftier goals that actually gets the smarter, the brighter, the more motivated people to change it. And then the last thing I'll leave with that is when you have that person, you do everything in your power to make sure that their career path in your company is exactly what they would love to have. And up until the point where it diverges and then you send them on their way with a packed lunch. But up until that point, it's your job as a leader to make sure that they have as many opportunities to pursue that passion inside your organization so you can maximize that value from that person being part of your team for your venture.
Thanks, Mike. Linda, a final word?
Yeah, I think careers across the board are changing so dramatically. You know, the skills are not enough anymore. You know, head, hand and heart. You've got to be able to balance all three things. But I think teaching people how to learn, not what to learn, teaching people to be passionate in changing the world and creating impact and knowing how they can do that themselves are the critical things, the building blocks that need to happen now. And I think agriculture is an absolutely amazing area for people to do that with. So I think it's not just in agriculture. We don't know what the future of the workforce needs to be, what the skills need to be. So let's just teach people to be open to learn and open to what's going to happen and be flexible.
Rich, teaching people how to be flexible, bringing passion, appropriate risk as a tool for excitement. Sound helpful?
Yeah, but you also have to realise when you employ someone, you're taking part of their life, time. So before you do that, you're never smarter than your market. So to be surrounded by sea but not have a seafood industry, they're issues that, governments need to go, hey, why is that? What are we going to do? Because if you take someone and you employ them, they need to know that they have a future. It doesn't matter about all the building blocks and the education systems. That's probably a key role that I think Australia needs to look at doing better.
Yep.
Yeah, great.
Richard Gorman, thank you for your time.